Hi everybody, so we are on the start of Unit 3 and we will be talking about relations and functions. So the first thing is we need to figure out some vocab terms. The first one is a coordinate plane. So a coordinate plane is formed by two lines. So we have a x-axis and y-axis that intersect and create four regions used for graphing. Okay, let's label the parts of a plane. So our first part is the center point, and we call this the origin. The location of the origin is always at point 0, 0 on the graph. Next is the horizontal axis. So the horizontal axis is this axis that goes horizontally, and we call this the x-axis. The next is the vertical axis that goes straight up and down, and that we call the y-axis. And then when looking at a coordinate plane, there are four quadrants. Quadrant 1 is in the top right-hand quadrant. Quadrant 2 is the top left. Quadrant 3 is the bottom left. And quadrant 4 is the bottom right. An ordered pair is a point, which when we write a point, we always give the x value first and the y value second. So it is a point on a graph. So for example, I could have a point as -1, 5. So the -1 is the x value and the 5 is the y. So let's go ahead and let's identify these ordered pairs on our graph. So point A. Here's point A. So point A, we always, when we're counting and when we're naming points, we need to start at 0, 0. So here's the origin, 0, 0. I go left 1, 2, 3. So I went left 3, so that's -3 is my x value. So when I write an ordered pair, I'm always going to go x, comma, y. So -3 is my x value. And y is, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I go up 4. So my y value is at 4. Because if I go cut A all the way across, it cuts at the y-axis at 4 and the x-axis at -3. And when we're looking at what quadrant this is, let's remember this top right box is quadrant 1, top left is quadrant 2, bottom left is quadrant 3, and bottom right is quadrant 4. And A is over here, which is in quadrant 2. All right, let's look for point B. Point B is here. We always start at 0, 0, so to get to B, I need to go along my x-axis 1, 2. So my x is at 2. B, from 0, 0, I go down 1, 2, 3 on my y-axis. When I go down on the y, that's going to be -3. And B is over here on this right box, right bottom box, and that is quadrant 4. Okay, let's look for point C. So point C is here. Remember x, y. So our x-axis, here's our x-axis. C did not move left or right any. So our x is still at 0. And our y, we had to go up 1, 2. So our y-axis is at 2. So our order pair is at 0, 2. Now if you notice, our C is right on an axis. And this axis is called the y-axis. So when the coordinate lands directly on the x or y axis, you label that as its quadrant because it's really not in either quadrant. It's right on the axis. All right, let's look at point D. D is here. So let's count how many we go right on the x-axis. So starting at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So on the x, D is at 7. And then we have to go up 1 box, which up 1 is 1 on the y-axis. D is in this top right box. So that is quadrant number 1. Let's look for E. Here's E. So to figure out our x, let's start at 0, 0, and we need to go left 1, 2, 3, 4. So we go left 4, which means -4. And then to go y, we're going to have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I go down to -6, which that lines up with -6 on my y-axis. And this is down here in the bottom left-hand box, which that is quadrant 3. And last but not least, point F. So on the x-axis, when we start at 0, 0, we go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we go left 5, so that's -5 as your x value. And the y value, it doesn't go up or down, it stays right there on the x-axis. So that would be 0. Now, I just gave a clue. I just said that this point is right on the x-axis, so we're going to lay right as the quadrant. We're going to say x-axis. All right, so there are going to be 2 types of graphs that we are going to be looking at. One is a discrete graph, and the other is a continuous graph. So a discrete graph is a graph that consists of points that are not connected. So if I go over here to the right side and I draw an X and Y axis, so here's my Y axis and here's my X axis. If I had a discrete graph, I would have points that are all around. These are distinct points. These points are not connected, but they are points that are on the graph. So this would be an example of a discrete graph. The next type of graph is a continuous graph. A continuous graph is a graph with connected lines or curves. So I'm going to draw my X and Y axis over here on the right. So here's my Y axis and here's my X axis. If I was looking at a continuous graph, it would look something like this. A line that keeps going. It is connected. There are a ton of points along this line, but we are just demonstrating that by a line. It is connected and curved. Okay, we're going to be looking at relations when we're looking at X and Y values. So a relation is a set of ordered pairs. So just a reminder, an ordered pair includes an X and a Y. And when we're looking at a set of X values, we call that the domain. And the set of Y values would be called the range. All right, so let's look at our first set of ordered pairs. So when we're looking at an ordered pair, we write an ordered pair as in parentheses. So the first number that comes first is the X, then a comma, and then you have your Y. And in this set of ordered pairs, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ordered pairs. And we're going to list the domains. And like I said, the domain is all of the X values. So our X's come first. So we're going to look at, in each set of parentheses, the first number is going to be our X's, and that is our domain. So when we write our domain, we're going to write all those numbers that I just highlighted from smallest to biggest. So the smallest number is -3. And here's another -3, but since I already wrote it, I don't have to write it twice. -2, then +1, and then +3. The range is all the X's, or is all the Y's, sorry. So the range is all of the Y's. So the range is going to be the second number in the parentheses. So that is my green number. So put it in little brackets, smallest to biggest. So my smallest number is -4, comma, 0, +1, +2, and +5. So remember, the domain is all of our X's and the range is all of our Y's. So there's another way to view the relationship between the X value and the Y value, and that is in a table. So we're looking at our ordered pairs over here on the left. So we're going to look at these over here. Okay, and we're going to put them in a table form. So just a reminder, in an ordered pair, all of our x's come first, and then our y's come second. So let's look at the first ordered pair. -3, 1. So we'll put -3 in the x column, 1 in the y column. And then we'll do the second ordered pair. -2 is for the x, 0 is the y. The third ordered pair, 1 is the x, 2 is the y. The next one would be 3, -4. And the final one would be -3, 5. So here is our table. The third way to view this domain and range is by mapping. And when mapping, we have two ovals. The oval on the left will be for our x values, and the oval on the right would be our y values. So we're only going to write the number of x's first. So we're going to look at the table, and we're only going to look at these x values. Now we're only going to write each one once. So if you can see, we have -3 written twice. We're only going to write that -3 one time, and then -2, and then 1, and then +3. Same thing for the y's. We're going to look at our y values, and we're only going to write it once. So if it's ever repeated, we're not going to write it twice. So we'll write 1, 0, 2, -4, and 5. Now with mapping, we're going to have to draw arrows. So we're going to have to show what number does -3 go with. What y value does the x and -3 go with? So -3 goes with 1, so I'm going to draw my arrow from -3 to +1. 2 goes with 0, so draw an arrow from -2 to 0. 1 goes with +2. 3 goes with -4. And then we have -3 that goes to 5. So I'm going to go back up here to -3, and then I'm also going to draw a second arrow coming from -3 to go to +5. And that's how we do mapping. All right, so I'm going to have you do number 2. You're going to write the ordered pair. You're going to then input your x and y values into a table. And then you're going to map out your x and your y's. Now, just a reminder, when we're looking at ordered pairs, they're always written as the x comes first in the parenthesis, and then the y comes second. So go ahead and do number 2.